Welcome back to Country's Movies, everybody. I bid you happy holidays, and with Christmas and inevitably New Year's around the corner, it's time to count down the best movies from the past decade. This is both a mix between the films bestowing the highest quality, as well as the films that I personally enjoyed the most, put into a list that will both differ from others, as well as present interesting aspects as well. I hope you enjoyed the video, and without further ado, let's get started. Starting out with the honorable mentions, we have the most recent addition to Stephen King's movie archive, Dr. Sleep. By both drawing elements from the book that preceded it, as well as the famed 1974 Stephen King novel, Mike Flanagan's stunningly beautiful and powerfully fan-service thriller soars to heights that King films seldom do, and for a fan of The Shining and film in general, Dr. Sleep is an overwhelming hit. Then we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I know, but by placing it here is by no means saying that it doesn't deserve a spot among the greats. It subverts the comic book and superhero genre, hits all the emotional beats it needs to, and then some, and breathes new life into a previously barren style that created a beautiful, unique, and flat-out fun ride of a movie. Mission Impossible Fallout was perhaps the most pulse-beatingly action-packed of the decade, and with its strong cinematography also came yet another committed performance from Tom Cruise, and a strong cast that carries it to exponentially blockbusting heights. Similarly, Star Wars The Force Awakens is another fun ride that not only passionately rebooted the franchise, but also provided a quaint and intimate atmosphere that makes for a great and at times emotional restart for the Skywalker saga. And finally, the last honorable mention is Moana. My personal favorite Disney movie of the decade. The sole reason that this musically strengthened work of animation falls out of the official list is the lack of a metaphorical or thematic richness that another certain film from the decade expertly provided. Otherwise, a convincing group of vocal performances and, once again, an amazing soundtrack make Moana an overwhelming hit that is perhaps my favorite Disney animated movie ever. Now moving on into the top 25 films of the 2010s. Perhaps the best pure action film of the decade, John Wick Chapter 2 is a benchmark set for its franchise and the genre as a whole. What drives this beauty of a funhouse film home though, in addition to its breathtaking action, is its surprisingly deep story to go along with it. The first Tarantino film to make an appearance on the list, Django Unchained is brutal, fun, and triumphant. It also goes to show that despite it being one of the weaker Tarantino films, if you could even call any of them that, it still is better than most released in the past 10 years. Moneyball earns its spot through its retooling of the sports genre. Instead of going with the typical underdog to big game formula, it chooses to focus on its characters and the effect the story has on them. The main lead isn't some one-sided figure, but one enriched with depth and issues, and his players are fleshed out humans instead of awe-inspiring me-sims. This feels like it really happened, possibly because it did, and the sports genre owes a potential growth and realism to it. Captain America Winter Soldier is one of the few superhero films that excels in every area. It remains perfectly grounded, yet stunningly over the top when it needs to be. The performances are engrossing all around, and its impact can be felt throughout the genre. Since its release, a spike in darker and more narrative-driven comic book films has been evident. In more ways than one, this comic book turned political thriller is revolutionary. Creed is the perfect blend of competent storytelling, beautiful acting, and emotional powerful moments. In regards to the franchise it comes from, it perfectly fits in. Not only does it find its own Sylvester Stallone and Michael B. Jordan, it works as a standalone film that soars by itself. Toy Story 3 is the perfect ending the series deserved. Out of all its hits this decade, it might just be Pixar's overall best. The least we can do to justify this animated masterpiece that rightly earned a Best Picture nomination is to pretend that they didn't try to continue the franchise. Searching was both a phenomenal mystery thriller as well as a surprisingly fresh introduction of completely screen-focused filmmaking. Anish Chaganty both provides a stellarly crafted movie as well as squeezes the best possible performances out of a small but talented cast. Hats off to one of the most engaging first watches of the entire decade. The second Tarantino film to make the list, The Hateful Eight, as is protocol, was pretty fantastic. Once again finding a way to challenge himself, QT takes an extremely intimate environment and turns it into a thrilling, twisty, and inspiringly unique mystery/action/awesome addition to his studded arsenal. The Last Black Man in San Francisco might just be the quietest film of the decade, but that is where its immense beauty lies. Instead of taking on huge ideals or star-studded casts, Joe Talbot creates a feel-good yet emotionally affirmative joyride that is as uplifting as any other this entire decade. It might not be the best, but when it comes to needing to become a child again, no one did it better. The other film that succeeded it, Glass, felt annoyingly cathartic at best. Split is undeniably one of the most creative films of the decade. Shyamalan's direction is spot on, the cinematography is stunning, the thrills are ever present, and the performances are off the charts. Really, it's hard to find an area where the psychological masterpiece fails. The metaphorical levels that Zootopia was able to hit is awe-inspiring in and of itself. Its simple yet thoughtful disregard for age bias when crafting its story led to one of the best animated movies not only of the decade, but really for Disney's whole arsenal. Perhaps the biggest surprise of the list, The Conjuring 2 was shockingly good upon first watch. Though there is a faith bias to go along with it, which shouldn't really be relevant, the film also provides stellar horror direction from James Wan, uplifting moments to go along with the terrifying ones, and a sense of triumphancy that, if anything, makes for a superbly enjoyable watch. Quentin Tarantino's third and final film of the decade might have also been his best. Though yes, it meanders with plot at times, what it lacks in thrills it makes up for in mature and thoughtful moments, still amazing slews of dialogue, and of course that amazingly fun final act. John Krasinski's introduction into the world of direction was a smash hit. A Quiet Place not only blends pulse-beating horror, but also pairs family-oriented emotion to go along with the thrills. If 2020's sequel hits anywhere near the level this film did, we're looking at perhaps an up-and-coming direction star. And for the final film of the video, we have Inception. For its mind-bendingly coherent story alone, it definitely earns a spot up here. But under it is an emotional and sweet ride that is phenomenally headed and layered by Leonardo DiCaprio. Though it may not be Nolan's best work, it certainly does the most with its crazy, yet compelling idea. And that's it for part 1 of the top 25 films of the 2010s. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for all the end of the year, end of the decade, and Christmas content coming soon. Always remember God number 1. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.